You're watching Morning Live. Thanks so much for staying with us. Now, the South African Communist Party, or the SACP, is not happy with the ANC's performance in many local municipalities, and is now considering contesting the 2021 local elections alone should its alliance partner fail to improve on service delivery and governance. Now, this is a proposal that was made in an internal document drafted by the SACP ahead of its special national congress, and the SACP has threatened to drop the ANC at this year's general election, but decided to support it closer to the date of the poll. Now, to discuss this further, we're joined by Solly Mapaila, who is the first Deputy General Secretary of the South African Communist Party. Mr. Mapaila, thank you so much for speaking to us this morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning to the viewers.
So let's start here. What exactly is your impression about how municipalities are run, especially the ones run by the ANC, which is your alliance partner?
There's a deep concern all around. I think South Africans are aware about that, particularly in critical metros and districts. That's why we've ultimately lost several metros, largely because of arrogance, poor service delivery, and also late response to problems that are affecting the people. So it is in that regard that we've put an assessment, and we'll discuss this with our allies. But on the basis of that, we're then looking at possibilities for fielding candidates ourselves, independent of the ANC.
What sort of assessment did you do? And if you can just elaborate slightly on what it yielded.
Well, a year ago, we launched the Red October campaign, which is a year-long campaign, of course, goes beyond the year, focusing on local government, the state of local municipalities. We thought there could be some improvement, for instance, on responding to the problems. Take, for instance, Malutea Pufung municipality, which was collapsed by a sitting mayor, who actually even established the pay point at his house, and no action was taken against him when the councillors, majority of whom were SACP members and ANC members, of course, when they took action, they were actually the ones who were expelled, and the man is promoted to the provincial legislature. And the situation continued. We have been there on several occasions. We reported to the leadership. The people are staying in an area where the Sterkfontein Dam, for instance, that supplies the reserve dam for Val River, for Val Dam system, and they were not having water for months and months in their own area. And municipality was not responding to that. The provincial government was not responding to that. So it is this kind of things that completely are unacceptable. And when we come to those areas, that is why in the recent municipal elections there, our structures did not campaign, and we informed the leadership of the ANC that we will not campaign for the ANC in that area, given that they refused or they were too tardy to respond to the problems of the people.
But more broadly speaking, what sort of discussions have you had with the African National Congress around these matters, especially in municipalities that have collapsed?
Well, firstly, we have had a discussion with the then Minister of Local Government, Comrade Solly Mapaila, who agreed with us on a number of interventions that were required. We put this to the leadership of the alliance, as well as other tools that, for instance, have been used to assess the state of local government. The Auditor General's report, for instance, on municipalities. That's one of the most shocking reports, actually, that comes out every year. It shows the total disregard, sometimes dysfunctionality, in municipalities. We've also seen the rising protest in communities. We've taken these matters to the movement for discussions, and I can also say that this weekend there was an extended NEC meeting, which on Saturday focused on discussions on local government, which we think it's a good response to some of the challenges that were there, because we cannot accept a situation where going forward we gamble our revolution at the expense of proper or good alliance relations when the people are not happy with what we are doing, because ultimately the revolution will lose its political authority, and the transformation of agenda for our country will be stagnated and will not be able to move forward.
You say it was a good discussion. What exactly did you discuss?
Well, the discussion, of course, looked at the comprehensiveness of the state of municipalities and where we are doing well, where we are not doing well. But from the Communist Party's point of view, we have said, given the rot that is there and the inability of leadership to act decisively against even the implicated individuals, would have to reconfigure the alliance so that it's not only the action expected from the ANC alone, but also from all other components of the alliance, so that if we want an action to be taken, we can take that action quite quickly. There are many other areas, for instance, that we've agreed as the alliance to take drastic actions, and they've not been taken. For instance, Zaneng municipality was almost collapsed by a grouping in the ANC who were looking for tenders. They suspended workers. We've been working in the municipality for several years, despite our call, making new interventions to in-source workers. In Kimberley, it was the same thing, in different municipalities in the Northwest. So all of those things have reached a boiling point where either the reconfiguration of the alliance functions to rectify things, or we stand on our own.
So what are we talking about right now as far as the SACP is concerned, and this talk about going it alone at the polls? Is it a resolution? Is it a discussion? At what level are we at?
There are two components. We do have a resolution to contest elections actively from our previous Congress, but that resolution said we must also have a discussion with our allies first, and we've put that matter into the discussions within the alliance. We are completing a common posture as the alliance on the reconfiguration process, because if we sort that matter out, it might be easier to respond to challenges that we face in different areas. We would not have stuck with a mayor that opens a pay point at his house for a long time, and there's no decisive action despite complaints by an ally. So that's one area that has been is finalized. What we are now discussing is the coming local government elections, and it's a discussion document for our special national congress. So if the discussions in the alliance doesn't go well, we then get the mandate to proceed and contest elections officially. Of course, as you will know, since that Congress, we have contested Metsimaholo municipality, where we're in coalition with the ANC. And of course, one of the things that has also come up there is that immediately the new team arrived, the mayor, Comrade Lindiwe, who's our mayor there, instigated a forensic audit. And when she wanted to act on the outcomes of the forensic audit, then she faced an unending motions of no confidence, just so that she's distracted and not act decisively against corruption. We can't accept such kind of things. If, for instance, a functioning alliance was existing in the Free State, for instance, there would have been decisiveness to deal with the road rather than to protect the road. So the municipality can focus on improving the living conditions of the people.
So given the reality that you have just yourself outlined of the relationship between the alliance partners and how governance issues play out in this regard, how should South Africans view your attempt right now at going it alone as the SACP, even though you are still a part of the alliance? Why should we take that seriously?
Well, that's a serious action. Of course, as I indicated, we stood in Metsimaholo on our own. Of course, the resolution also speaks to the necessity to build popular fronts, meaning that mass mobilization on a specific issue in that particular community. We are now launching a Red October campaign. From here, I'm going to a meeting, consultative meeting on the Red October campaign, which is focusing on building fronts. Broad fronts. We have established one front, for instance, to defend our democracy and to fight corruption and state capture. But we are now broadening that space. For instance, a front in the fight against gender-based violence, a front in the connection of union work, particularly against casualization at the workplace, against labor brokering, for workers to come together to defend the existing jobs and also to fight for a living wage in the same context. So all of those multiple fronts are fronts that were quite active component of as a Communist Party, but it's not only us who are working that space. And our resolution was also clear that if we were to do it proper, we must do it in that form.
And I'm glad you elaborate slightly on that, because let's take the example that you've cited in Metsimaholo. So the mayor there, is it an ANC mayor? Is it an SACP mayor?
The mayor is an SACP mayor.
But does it say so?
Yeah. It's because we contested under the name of the SACP.
And what happened after the election?
Well, we had to establish a coalition with the ANC. But of course, as I indicated, soon after when the forensic investigation was instituted, because before we went there, part of the reason we contested that was that the municipality fired some workers. And we had to, when it comes to workers, we put a stand. We are the part of the working class. At the core of that are the workers. So if you can't treat workers well, how can you treat society well as a whole? So workers are the creators of wealth of society. So we felt we can't accept that at all. And we engaged with the ANC for a long time without that matter being resolved. And we later found that there was a lot of corruption in the process, including when workers were expelled from work. Tenders were rolled out to provide services that would have been provided by workers at double the cost of the price when workers would have been full-time. So the extension of dismissal of workers or suspension of workers was done deliberately for financial gains. That is why there was forensic investigation, and when action was to be taken there have been motions of no confidence against the mayor.
So again, from what you've explained, whilst you are part of the tripartite alliance, how then does that distinguish you from the ANC? How is it that people would not see you perhaps as a proxy for the ANC? So perhaps a place where the ANC is finding it difficult for one reason or another, where there's been a fallout, in a municipality, people would perhaps say we're not voting for the ANC, step up the SACP, which is an alliance partner of the ANC. Are you not a proxy, as it were?
We're an independent organization. What brings us together with the ANC is the common program to transform the lives of our people, to transform property relations, gender relations, racial relations, as well as class relations. So it's a program that we call the National Democratic Revolution. It's a comprehensive program. That program is the one that brings us together, but that program can be implemented even by other forces outside the alliance if the alliance is not happy or is unwilling to implement that, because that's probably the best program for transformation that we can ever get in this country, at least to our conditions. So that unites us, but we're not a proxy of any other organization, but we're in a strategic alliance relationship with both the ANC, COSAT, as well as SANCO.
So what would you do differently as the SACP if you were to control municipalities?
Well, the first thing is that it will be people-driven municipality in terms of from the budgeting processes. It will not seek to please big business at the expense of the people. It will be a municipality that is run cleanly, like we're doing with Metsimaholo. In fact, is one of the best-run municipalities in the Free State. The shining example in the Free State is that municipality, despite that we're running it in a coalition. So it will definitely be what a municipality should be, not this over-focus on opulent
Isn't it
things and
easier
so
said
forth.
than done? Because you sit in an alliance right now whereby there is a lot of talk, even from yourself, about corruption, about maladministration, about poor governance in these municipalities, and you've spoken out against it, but it seems as though you haven't been effective, even as an alliance partner.
No, I mean, it doesn't mean that we have not done good in other areas as the alliance. We've done very well in many instances where strategic interventions were made. But of course, we do believe that we could have done perhaps 10 times better than the things are at the moment. That's an area that we're impatient about. That's an area that we seek to resolve. And that's an area that I think we will focus our posture on. And that's why we're mobilizing all of society to work with us in that regard through France.
We're out of time, but just a final one. You said you were not going to support the ANC in the lead up to the final, to the last election, but there were some problems. You did go it alone at some point, as you said. You threatened to withhold your support, but then you changed your mind.
Well, at the time, South Africa was facing a peculiar situation where the movement as a whole, headed by the ANC, would have lost power if we decided not to stand with the ANC. So it was in that regard, post-Nasrec, in the middle of the fight back campaign, and we felt that we needed to consolidate political power behind the African National Congress, which represent all of us. In any case, we drafted the manifesto together. That is why we want the focus on the implementation of manifesto as a priority than new things that are coming in, entering into that particular space without prioritizing what we went to tell the people that we will do if elected.
Well, that was Solly Mapaila, first Deputy General Secretary of the South African Communist Party, talking about the possibility of the SACP contesting ANC-led municipalities over the next 2 years and, of course, the elections in general. So that's where we can leave it for now. Let's take a quick break.